Hey everyone, again this is Jyotsna with Explorify. I think we're going to get started now. The recording will also be available after the session. And of course, we'll have some time for questions towards the end. So Explorify is a Harvard incubated company. We are based out of Boston. We are a consulting marketplace and a training platform. We connect companies to experts for their projects in emerging technologies like big data, IoT, analytics, data science, and we also provide training on site as well as online. We have courses, again, ranging from cloud, data science, analytics, digital marketing, big data, IoT, and other emerging technologies. And I'd like to introduce Alessandro Russo. He is the instructor for our course, Google Tag Manager, and he will be talking further on his background as well as getting started and letting you know more on Google Tag Manager and getting started with Google Tag Manager. So Alessandro, please go ahead.
Hello everyone, thanks a lot for the introduction. And I'm Alessandro Russo, but everyone can call me Alex if you prefer. And I'm a digital entrepreneur that has more than 15 years experience in software engineering. And I'm the founder of webmind.com, that is a web development company and consultancy business. And I'm also the marketing director of a charity that operates in Vietnam. And the name of the charity is Educare. So basically, right now, we've been working with Google Tag Manager, which is the tool we're going to talk about today, for more than 2 years, and we have been able to troubleshoot tags for customers all over the US, also for a couple of Fortune 100 and Fortune 500 companies. Therefore, we had the chance to face different problems and different approaches to the use of Google Tag Manager. What I'm going to do in this session is actually introduce you to what Google Tag Manager is, show you how it can be beneficial for you when you want to manage your marketing and analytics tags, and how easy it is to set up a Google Tag Manager account. And during the session, we also try to work with a demo website and track page views and clicks on a specific item. After, towards the end of the session, we're going to have a 10 to 15 minutes for a few questions in case you want to ask anything. So I get started right now, and the first thing we're going to do is look at this website. It is a test website that I've created on CodePen.io. CodePen.io is just a tool that lets you create HTML, CSS, and JavaScript code. And I actually took this example website that we're going to use throughout the section. And as you can see, it's just a very simple landing page. This button doesn't even work, just the first scroll. So we have the landing page, we have a couple of buttons here: Explore, Premium, Download, and the call to action that is Test Now. And the other thing we're going to look at is the editor view. The editor view will simply let us change things on the website. So imagine that the left part of this editor is your index HTML, or a page of your website. In the middle, we have the CSS, but we're not going to worry about it. And for this specific example, there's zero JavaScript, so don't worry about it. The only thing we need is this part here, and we'll need to change the head of the website, and we're going to do that from here. As you can see, there's written stuff for head. So whatever we want to put between the head tags on CodePen, we will need to add here. On a regular website, you will just edit the index HTML and enter the code that I'm going to show you in a minute inside the head tags. So it's pretty much the same thing. All right, so if you own a website, or if you work for a in the digital marketing sector, or in any case, despite where you're coming from, if you are a developer, for example, you might have ended up in wanting to track what the user is doing on your page, and more than that, you are familiar with with the value the data has. So you always want to gather as much data as you want from a user interaction within your website or your e-commerce website. You want to know if the user is going to a specific purchase funnel, if the user is stopping before actually completing the purchase. There are many use cases that you need to track on a daily basis for yourself or for your clients. So if given all of the above, probably you have already seen this tool here. This is Google Analytics, but there's many other marketing tags and analytics tools that you can use. And in general, what you will do if you want to enable Google Analytics on a given website, you will do something like that. You will create your account, and we're going to create one now. So let's call it webinar Expertify, or the other way around. Expertify webinar. The name doesn't really matter. The website name, I'm going to call it test website. And the URL is going to be the URL of our example. So I'm going to just grab this URL here, but it can be www.yourwebsitename.com, whatever. In this case, our URL is this one. I'm going to paste it here, and maybe I'm going to get rid of the HTTPS on the front. So what I'm doing now is just doing a traditional Google Analytics setup. I'm creating my account, and then I can click on Get Tracking ID. All right. Yeah, I have to accept the terms of service. I'm going to do that. And that's fine. So once I'm done that, bear with me. Yeah. There's a connection between Analytics and Google Tag Manager. We see what I'm adding. So we're going to copy this tracking ID, or alternatively, we can include this code. And guess what? We have to include it in the head tags. So I'm going to copy that here. I'll go back to CodePen, and as I mentioned earlier, in order to insert some code between the head tags, I have to do that through the settings. Just because I'm on CodePen. In the real life, you don't need to do that. You do that directly from your website, from your HTML page. So I'm going to save it. And what's going to happen now, if everything is working fine, is that when I reload the page and I go on Google Analytics, I should see that I'm now receiving traffic. You see, there's one active user right now, and I can see, I can look at a thing called the real-time monitor. And in the real-time monitor, you can see that I'm right now in Portugal, and I'm visiting this page. So imagine that you have a few users visiting your landing page. In this report, you will be able to see that. All right. The problem here is that in order to enable Google Analytics on the website, I had to at least know some how to take a JavaScript code and where exactly to add it in a page, and I need to have access to the website code in order to change it and finally enable Google Analytics, right? And the other thing I have to do right now, for example, a client asked me to add Hotjar as well. I'm not going to do that now, but we can try doing that later. Hotjar is another analytics tool that offers heat maps and lets you record a small video of what the user is doing on your website. And if I wanted to do that, I had to create the account. You still have to do that. And then look for the JavaScript code, take the JavaScript code, paste it into my website, this guy here, and then eventually start to track. Imagine if you have 100 different marketing tools. Every time you need to add some knowledge and it becomes a total mess, right? So that's where Google Tag Manager comes in help, because this free tool is actually free in its regular version from Google. Lets you basically deploy just one tag, and within the Google Tag Manager tool, you'll be able to add any other tag. Let me explain that better. Basically, we'll add some JavaScript code into our page only once when we create the Google Tag Manager account, and we'll be able to then manage all the other tags through Google Tag Manager itself from a very simple dashboard that I'm going to show you in a minute. And when we want to add Google Analytics, we can do that from that dashboard. So if a client does no longer give us access to their website when we have to add a new tracking tag or when we have to do some changes, it doesn't matter because we have already our Google Tag Manager code, and specifically we have a thing called a Google Tag Manager container. And within this container, we have all our marketing and analytics tag. All right, so given that what I just said doesn't mean anything, I'm going to show you what I meant. So I'm on Google Tag Manager now, and the only thing I've done is to log in with my Google Gmail account, and I end up in this view here. You see many different containers, but when you create an account, you won't see anything. These are my existing containers. So the first thing you're gonna do when you end up in this dashboard after registering an account or logging with your Google account, you will click on Create Account. So I'm gonna do that now. We're gonna call it webinar website. Again, it doesn't matter. And you're gonna pick the country you're in. In my case, it's Portugal, but my business is based in Ireland, so I'm gonna pick Ireland right here. And you can decide if you want to share data anonymously. You can click on continue, it's very straightforward. And then you have to give the container, and again, the container is what will actually organize all of our tag. It's the actual code we're gonna copy on the website, and that's the only thing we're gonna do on the physical website. So we're gonna call this container, let's take the name of this guy. Let's call it music container. I know it doesn't mean anything, but just really just an identifier, music container. And now we have different types of container we can use. We have basically 4 different types. One is web, and then is one we're going to use right now because we're looking at the desktop website. Then we have 2 other containers that are iOS and Android, and this is for mobile apps. And then we have the AMP, and if you're not familiar with the AMP, it stands for Accelerated Mobile Pages, and is a specific use case that we're not going to cover here. So today we're going to focus on the web part of things. So the majority of our clients are always in need to track better websites, but there are also clients requesting mobile applications tracking as well. And it's quite similar in terms of what you can set up and what you can do anyways. So I'm gonna select web container, click on create. Once again, I'm gonna accept the terms of service and click on this guy here, data processing terms required by GDPR because we are in Europe in my case. So click on create. And I end up on this page where I have this pop-up saying, okay, please paste this code again in the head tags. And that's the only thing I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna Control C here, go back to my landing page, click on change view, editor view. Somebody says that they can't hear me. Josna, are you here? There's somebody saying that he can't hear me. Probably it's either because he has to select the proper speakers. But can you confirm that you can hear me right now? Can somebody type in the chat and confirm that you can hear me? I can hear you. Okay, good stuff. Thanks a million, everyone. So I don't know why somebody can't. Probably it's because you have to select your speaker in the settings. All right, so back here, I go to my settings and click on HTML again, and I'm gonna remove the code for Google Analytics. So imagine that we started just now, we have created a Google Tag Manager account, and again, what I have to do is select this code and paste it between the head tags. In your website, paste it between the head tag, and if you don't have any coding experience, ask your dev team to do that on your behalf. And that's pretty much the only thing you're gonna ask them for a while. So I'm gonna paste it, save it, and there's another thing we have to do, that is to take this optional code and paste it in the body tag. So where we actually have the body of our website. I'm gonna copy that. And this code is used when you have no JavaScript enabled, but in general we do. So I'm gonna go here, and the body of our website in this case is here, all right? So I'm gonna paste it right after the body tag and paste it here. All right, so we should be good to go. I can save my changes because I have to do that in this case, and go to the full page view. That actually is a simulation of what the real website will look like. If I've done everything correctly, I'm gonna click OK here. If I've done everything correctly, I should now be able to publish my container. And when I say publish, it's because as soon as you create one and you paste the code, it's not yet totally enabled. You have to submit that. So in order to submit that, you're just when you submit that, you're creating the first version of your container. Because another great thing about Google Tag Manager is that you can access the history of the versions of your container. So every change you make has an history. So say that you make a wrong change, you can roll back to your previous version. And it's very useful, especially when you're testing stuff around, you know? So I'm gonna click on submit, and I'm gonna be presented with this screen here that is asking me to give some information about this first commit, this first submission. So I'm gonna call it initial version. That's the name of the version, and initialized my container. There's nothing here right now, it's an empty container. And environments, we're not gonna cover that, I'm just gonna tell you what they are. You can have different environments, pre-production, testing environments, live environments. We're gonna work on the live one for now. And inside my course, that is on Expert5, we'll talk more about environments. You'll see how we can use them. All right, so once I've submitted my version, I'm here. And we're almost over with the boring stuff. We can go to my workspace. And if I'm lucky, I should have a live version. So my container has now been published, right? Okay, so we haven't done anything other than enabling this famous container. What we're gonna do now is to actually deploy our Google Analytics code, but we're gonna do that now through the container in Google Tag Manager itself. In order to do so, we're gonna click on admin. We need the actual tracking code. On our test website, I'm going to click on tracking info and tracking code. And we need just one thing, that is the tracking ID. Bear with me. So I'm going to click here and copy this guy, the tracking ID. And then I'm going to go to Google Tag Manager, and we're going to create a thing called a tag. So we're going to create a tag, and we're going to create a trigger. So in order to create a tag, let's click on new tag. Right here, and we have to give the tag a name. So we're going to call it GA, that stands for Google Analytics, okay? GA tag. That's all. And then we have two different boxes. One is the tag configuration, and one is the trigger. Let's start with the tag configuration. When clicking on this box, we are presented with a list, a very long one, of tags that are already supported by Google Tag Manager. And there's also a way to support pretty much any tag, because we can have a custom HTML tag that is an advanced topic. But we're going to just select Google Analytics, the first item in our list. Click on that, and we are presented now with a selection that we need to make. So we need to check the tracking type, and in our case, we want to track page views. When a user visits our page, we want to have an event triggered in Google Analytics. So I'm going to click on page view. And here we have Google Analytics settings. We can do that in two ways. We can either override the settings by clicking on this checkbox, and I will just have to paste the tracking ID now on this input box, or we can create a thing called a variable that basically lets you create a dynamic item that is always updated, and you can use in many different Google Analytics tag. So if you don't want to repeat yourself every time and enter the tracking ID, you can do that through a variable. For now, let's do the override, just for the sake of this webinar. I'm going to paste the tracking ID, and I'm going to expand the more settings. There's a lot of things you can set here, custom dimensions, metrics, and all, but we don't need to do that now. We're just tracking page views. So we can click on save, and Google Tag Manager is telling me that I have to create a trigger, because right, we have a tag. So we have Google Analytics that have to fire a tag in some situation, but we need to tell Google Tag Manager what the situation is, what their event is. So let's click on add trigger, or we can save the tag in the meantime, so it won't fire, it's the same. So we have this pseudo created tag. So I'm clicking on tags. We have it here in the list, but it's not doing anything because we need a trigger. So let's click on trigger, and we can already select all pages. So we're saying, okay, in each single page of our website, in our example, we have just one page. Sorry, I just was looking at the time to make sure I'm not going too far with this explanation. So we can select all pages, and it will fire in every single page. So we're gonna do that now. But if we didn't want to select all pages, we could click on this plus sign on the top right, and then we can access like many different type of tags. Bear with me, I'm gonna show you a few of them later. So let's select all pages, right? And now we're saying, okay, every time somebody visits a page, fire this specific Google Analytics tag. Let's save it. All right. And now we have finally completed the tag creation, but we haven't finished our job. Let's click on Overview. As I said, every time we want to publish our changes, we have to submit our container. So the live version right now doesn't contain anything, but we can see that in our workspace, because we can have multiple workspace shared within the members of our team, and each workspace is like an isolated environment. And when somebody finishes his changes or her changes, they can submit that into the live container. So now we can see that we have added one item. So let's say that now I would like to see what happens before submitting that on my website. I want to make sure this is working. I don't want to commit to production something that isn't working at all. And I can do that by clicking on Preview. You see here, I'm gonna click on this button and see what happens. It's loading. This is just my network. All right, so now we have this orange box that is telling us that we are previewing the workspace. It means that if I keep this window open, this tab open, I can now go back to my website, refresh the page, and see what happens here, if it works. It's working. Now on the page I can see on the bottom this Google Tag Manager window. And this is like a debug window that lets us test our changes in a preview mode. So it's only locally. Nobody is actually seeing those changes other than us. And if we close the window here, we will not be able to see this window anymore, the Google Tag Manager window. All right, so let's take a look at the preview mode. Here I have a summary of the tags that fired on the page. And what you see on the left are 3 events. And they are ordered by the time when those events happened. The first event that happens is, window loaded. So the actual browser page loaded, and we have the window loaded event. DOM ready is when all the elements are ready to be rendered on the screen. This is more technical. But the one we are interested in is page view, is when the actual user has seen all the elements he was supposed to see. And it's called page view. And here we can see a list of the tags that fired when the page view event occurred. And we can see our GA tag here. So it's working. If it wasn't working, it would have been here on tags not fired on this event. Is it working really? Let's go on Google Analytics and let's go on the home page and let's cross our fingers on real time. And if it's, I can see that it's working already anyway. And I can see there's one visitor and that's me, so it's still working. GA is working, but this time we have created that through Google Tag Manager, right? Going back to our preview mode, there's another thing you can check. You want to check that the conditions you have specified in the trigger are actually working. You know they are, but say that it wasn't working. You see all these green ticks? It means that all the conditions have been satisfied. So on the bottom, under firing triggers, you can see that there was an all pages trigger and there's a green tick. If there was a red X, it would mean that that specific trigger wasn't firing in that condition. That was a motorbike. So you're happy, it's all working fine. It means that we can now go back to Google Tag Manager and submit our changes. At this time, I'm gonna write added GA tag, page view. I'm not gonna enter any description, but you can do whatever you seem fit. All right. And that's it. This is the simplest tag you can create. You didn't have to ask developers to create your Google Analytics tag on your behalf. It's exactly what I've done before, but I didn't have to copy any JavaScript code. All right. So somebody might be wondering, okay, yeah, it's easy to do the page view, but say that I want to track what happens when a user clicks on a specific button. Here we don't have a form, but we have also capabilities for forms. And inside the Expert course, we're gonna talk a lot about forms and how to track forms and all that. So let's say that I want to track when a user is clicking on premium, right? Only on premium, not anywhere on the page, only on premium. Let's see how to do that in Google Analytics. I'm gonna go on Google Tag Manager. And again, what I'm gonna do right now, sorry, I entered the wrong container. What I'm gonna do right now is to create a tag that is triggering an event in Google Analytics when a user is clicking on the premium button. This is complicated, eh? And I'm gonna leave the preview mode for now. We're gonna enable that later to test. All right, so I'm gonna create the tag this time from another window. You can go under tags, click on new. It's the same identical thing I've done in the overview. And let's name this tag premium button click. And the tag type is gonna be, once again, Google Analytics. And before going forward, I want to tell you that there are multiple tags. There's Google Ads, there's floodlights. We use a lot floodlights tags for double click for our clients. And there's conversion linker, there's Google Optimize, custom HTML and custom image, and lots of them. There's also Hotjar somewhere, if I'm not wrong. No, probably is custom code, Quantcast, search for. There's so many, guys. And if there's not, again, you can use the custom HTML tags. All right, so I'm gonna create, bear with me, Google Analytics tag, once again. And this time is gonna be an event type, all right? Because we want to trigger a specific event. So we want to say that in Google Analytics, the event category will be click, the action will be premium button, the label, I'm gonna call it premium, whatever, and the value is gonna be 1, whatever. We can also leave it empty with the mind. And you see this icon here? That's if you're using variables, because you can create variables that contain values related to your actual website. For example, say that I want to have the value to be the page URL, all right? Page URL. And then we're gonna talk about variable in a second. So I want to have in Google Analytics, I want to see here in my real-time event and in my data, I want to see click, I want to see the premium button, I want to see on which URL this button was, and that's pretty much all I want to see. And we need again to enter our tracking ID, but this time, given that we don't want to keep entering that, we're gonna create a variable. So I'm gonna keep this tracking info, the tracking code, copy that. I'm gonna go a little bit faster now and disable this and click on new variable, call it GA settings, whatever the name you like, and the tracking ID is gonna be here this time, and the cookie domain is gonna stay to O2. I'm gonna save automatic. Okay, and now I can see that I'm importing my GA settings. It's the same thing as I'm coding that, but next time I will just select the GA settings instead of typing manually and check my tracking ID. Make sense? Okay, so let's say that the tag part is finished, and now we're gonna add our trigger, head, sorry, and it's not gonna be an all pages trigger, pardon. Let's change this, modify, remove, click too fast, sorry. And we're gonna click on the plus sign, and we're gonna have a click premium button trigger and the trigger configuration. The trigger configuration is gonna be a click type because we have page views, user engagement. We can also monitor the scroll depth, for example. But in our case, we want to have a click, and the click type is gonna be all elements because it's not a link, we want to treat it as an element, even if it's an hyperlink. We don't want to trigger this tag on all clicks because otherwise it will trigger even if the user clicks in any other area of the page, but we want to do some clicks. And now is where we need a variable, all right? Because we don't have a built-in variable to track what we need. So we're gonna choose one, and in our case, it's gonna be a click element. How do I know that? But see this. You see this premium button? I'm gonna click on that now, and I'm gonna show you one thing here. So I right click and I went on inspect, and I can see that this is a link with an href, but there's not a proper ID here. I want this button to have an ID, even if it's a link. So I'm gonna change the HTML slightly. As probably in your website you will find more buttons with the proper label. And where is it? It's called premium, right? So say that it's called premium. All right, and here I'm gonna give this button a class better than an ID. I'm gonna call it premium. Okay, so this is our button. Nothing has changed on our page, but just remember that the class of this button will be premium. I'm gonna rename, I have to save my changes, and I'm gonna go on full page. And back to Google Tag Manager, I want to say, okay, only if you click on a button, there's a specific class. So I'm gonna select click classes. So this is the variable I'm testing. And this click class has to contain, or must be equal. There are different conditions we can test. It can be equal, contains, it starts with a specific text, it ends with a specific text, and so on and so forth. So contains what? Premium, all right? So we're just telling, please fire that specific Google Analytics tag only when a user clicks on an item that has a specific CSS class called premium that contains the premium word. So if it was premium something, it would work anyways. Let's save it. And I think that our tag is now completed. Let's click on save. And you know already what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go on overview, click on preview. Fingers crossed. Maybe I've done something wrong. I hope not. This is our last test in the demonstration. All right, so the preview mode is now active, and I can go here, refresh my page, otherwise the preview does not trigger. All right, I can see that it's still firing the GA tag, but given that I haven't clicked anywhere, it's not firing the new tag, the click tag. So first test I'm gonna do, I'm gonna click somewhere. All right, and as you can see, every time I click on an element on the page, even if I click on an area of the page here, a GTM click event triggers. So it's click events. Every time I click, this generates. And if I click here, I can see that there is a new tag, but this time it's not firing. And if I click on it, I have this red X. Why? Because we said that the tag should trigger only for click classes that contain premium. So we have a green tick because it's a click event, but we don't have a green tick on the click class because the class of the element that we clicked on is not premium, all right? I'm gonna click on premium now and click Control or Command if you are on Mac in order to the page not to refresh. So let's click on premium and select the last click event, 18. And this time we have the firing tag because our class is premium, right? Awesome. What happens in Google Analytics? So let's go there. In Google Analytics, you have real-time events as well. Here, click on events. And we can see that there is an event category click, which I defined in Google Tag Manager. The event action is premium button. And if I go deeper into that, I can see the event label that is premium. All right. And somewhere, not in this, I can't see that in this specific window right now. I could, but I have to enable the URL. I could see also the value for our events. And when this, when the acquisition and the behavior report updates, you'll be able to see also the other data. All right, so this was my presentation, and I just wanted to show you a very, very quick introduction of what Google Tag Manager is. The last thing I have to show you before moving on to the questions is the variables. We're going to submit that before, right? So let's go GA click, premium button, right? So I'm going to publish that. Good. We're now live, and it's on the live website. We have a report of the version. We can go back to our workspace. and go under variables. We talked about variables. I showed you a couple of ones, but what you can do is also to enable all the built-in variables so that every time that you create a trigger is already available in the drop-down. So let's enable at least all the click variables, and you see it's already populating here. So once I've done that, I don't even need to save, but when I create a trigger, we don't mind the name, let's create a page view and say send page views. I have already in this list here all the variables to test without going manually inspect it. All right, discard changes, we don't mind. So that's it. Another thing you can do with variables is create your custom variables. We have created one already, that is the GA settings, and there's many other things you can do with Expertfy. You can have loads of tags. You can have them talking to each other. You can trigger a tag if another tag has already triggered, and so on and so forth. You can create custom tags. You can track video play. You can, for example, say, oh, I want to know when users watched at least 25% of my video. There's so many things you can do on your own, especially if you don't have JavaScript knowledge. But if you have JavaScript knowledge, there's even more things you can do, because you can play with a thing called data layer that we'll cover in the course, at least for what's concerning a couple of implementations. So that's all, and I think that we can now move on to the questions. I hope that you enjoyed this presentation. I didn't go too fast, but if something wasn't clear, please type in the chat. I know there's a questions area, but it's very hard to see all the questions here. So if you can use the chat, it's even better. So please let me know what you think and tell me if you have any questions. I'm here for you. I wonder if anyone can see me. Sorry, listen to me. Josna, are you here? There's Ibrahim. It's everyone is on mute, so I probably have to type in chat. Hello. Questions panel. How can I track conversions? Okay, you're writing in the question area. All right. Somebody says, how can I track conversions in Expertfy? All right, this is a very good question, and I'm actually doing that, Mark. Is that okay to show you that? Yeah. So on Expertfy, if I'm not wrong, so let's see what I've done here. Let's go on all accounts. And if we go to my container, work use, where is it? I had one somewhere. Anyway, as long as you can access the session, an area where you can enter the Google Tag Manager code on your Expertfy configuration, you will be able to track conversions, right? So I don't remember, and probably Ibrahim or Josna can help you out with that, if you have that type of access. And if you can track your Expertfy, Expertfy conversions, but I'm under the impression that Expertfy is already doing that for you. But it's ideally it's gonna be somewhere in your dashboard, assuming you have it, because again, you have to be able to at least enter the container code. Let's see. Analytics, third-party integration here. All right, here you can just use Google Analytics, right? So you can't enter your Google Tag Manager code. So, and the reason why is because otherwise you end up tracking so many things, and probably for security reasons, Expertfy doesn't let you, but feel free to get in touch with Expertfy and ask them if there's any way to include your Google Tag Manager code inside your landing page. That's it. So the session is useful. I'm happy that you like that. And the Expertfy team is going to share with you a 25% discount, if I'm not wrong, at the end of the session. I hope to see you all inside the course. And once you are in, feel free to ask me any question. Under third-party integration, there's a field to enter checkout page conversion label. What do I enter there? Mark, this is not actually related to Google Tag Manager itself. This is more around Google Analytics. And when you set up goals into Google Analytics, you are able to retrieve all of this data, conversion ID, the landing page, and the other three are the labels that you have to use. But this is more on Google Analytics and not on Google Tag Manager, so I can't provide you any further information right now. Thanks for a great presentation. I'm happy that you like it. Krishna, I hope to see you inside the course. Does anybody have any other question? Like, for example, let's see, we have again 15 minutes. If you don't have any other question, would you like to see another example? Maybe we can try to, I don't know, but maybe I can show you something more about how to manage the history once you submit that, so I can show you how to roll back to a previous version. Or if you have any other question, please type that in the question area or in the chat. All right, so let me show you something else, and then I think that Ibrahim or Josna can then wrap up the webinar, and I hope to see you inside the course. So the last thing I'm going to show you, let's go on Google Tag Manager again, and let's reopen our music container account. And have I submitted that? Yes, I did. So if we click on the live version, the green box, you can see that we are now on version 3, right? And here you can see all the changes that you have introduced as part of your submission of your container. And the changes that you see is that I've added a new trigger, I've added a variable for GA settings, and I've added a premium button, all right? And then I have a few tags that have been untouched. So say that I messed up and I made a big mistake and I want to roll back that. I want to go back to version 2. I have to click on these 3 dots, and then I can do a few things. I can either set the specific version to be the latest, but I can also decide that I want to check version 2. So there's a few ways you can do that. A very easy one is to check the URL. At the end, there's a number, 3. If I want to check version 2, I'm going to change it and go to version 2. And now that I'm here, I can click on the 3 dots and do set as latest version. Click on that, and it's warning me that I will impact all the outstanding workspaces, but I'm gonna do that anyways because I don't mind. And now, fingers crossed, I should have again. Wait. Still submitting. Sorry. And now, basically, I should have 5 different, you see, the workspace is outdated. So it means that it's restoring all the changes I made in the previous version, but in order to apply them, I have to submit again. So let's click on update for the workspace. And it's saying restored version 2, and click on update. Boom. And now let's click on submit. Restore version 2. Click on publish. And I'm back to what I had, only the GA tag. So that's how you restore, roll back a version. And now I'm not going to unveil new details because there's more and more to learn about Google Tag Manager, and you'll see all of that in our 3.5 hours course. I'm always after adding new content to the course. It means that in general, I love to get feedbacks from my students, and I add new content based on what they require or they request after they finish the course. Sometimes it's not possible to extend the lectures itself on the course because it's more advanced topics, and I will work on a more advanced Google Tag Manager course for people that already attended this one. But yeah, so if you don't have any other questions, I will say goodbye. I'll let you guys go. Thanks a lot for joining. It's been a pleasure to have you